So I'm going to go ahead and tune this one a little bit higher. So I'm going to take my drum key, and the really important thing to remember is that whichever tuning rod you start with, you want to then go to the opposite one. So don't tune round clockwise or anti-clockwise. You always want to kind of leapfrog over, pick another one, leapfrog, and that means that the tension remains the same across the drum, which is really important. Otherwise you get lots of different ripples and it just sounds rubbish. So I'm going to tune clockwise to go up in pitch and anti-clockwise to go down. So I'm going to tighten this up just a quarter of a turn, and don't worry if you hear that snapping, it's just the glue on the side of the drum head moving. It doesn't mean you're breaking the drum. So then I go to my opposite one and I do the same, quarter of a turn, and then I'm going to go up to the top and repeat that, and down, move across, and then do the final one with a quarter of a turn as well. And then I'm going to see what that sounds like. So as I tune that up, it's just going to sound more high pitched. So as I say, it depends what sound you want. If you're recording in the studio, quite often a really high pitched sound doesn't always sound good, so then you want to go the opposite way, and you can really tune it much lower by tuning it down. So this time I'm going to tune it down a lot more than a quarter of a tone, just so that you can really hear the difference. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this up 2 turns down. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And because this is such a dramatic amount of turning, you're going to really hear the difference this time. So again, much lower, really loose if I push into the drum. I don't know if you can see it moving, but it's all ripply. So I wouldn't actually ever do it that much, but just to show you the extreme. So let's go somewhere in the middle, tune it up again. And as you get to know what kind of sound you like your snare drum to be, you'll find that this process becomes much quicker because you just trust your own ear with it. There you go, back to normal. Another thing that you can do to just check that you're roughly tuned the same on each drum is to just tap gently, just opposite each of the tuning rods. And you can hear they all sound roughly the same. That's a good enough job for me. So let's move on to one of the toms. So I'm going to repeat the same process. Let's listen to what it sounds like to start off with. Again, I'm quite happy with that. One thing that I like to do with my toms is make sure that my bottom drum head is tuned slightly higher than my top drum head, which is tuned obviously slightly lower, and that gives me what's called a pitch bend sound. So the sound kind of is rather than a flat So that's just a personal preference thing. I like my toms to be tuned pretty low, so they're quite boomy. But again, if you're playing more like a jazz style, you probably want to tune your toms a lot higher. So really start researching different tunings and just experiment. Get actually on your kit and see what you like the sound of, because that's, in my opinion, the most important thing.